Hey there, we're Tali and Ophira Edut, identical twins and astrologers. Welcome to AstroTwins Radio, where we bring the stars down to Earth. Hey everyone, we are here for the week of March 10th to 16th, and we're together, Tali here in Seattle, well, together.
And Ophie in New York, virtually together.
And we are going to get you prepared for what might be a little bit of an intense week. Sorry, March is just that kind of month. Eclipse season starts on Friday with a total full blood worm moon lunar eclipse in Virgo.
Yummy.
Yummy. And then Mercury goes retrograde on Saturday for 3 weeks, March 15th to April 7th. And before that, the Sun and Saturn meet up on Wednesday, March 12th, for a day we call the Day of Challenges, where grit and muscle and resilience are required. Look, we are going to get you through this week, and we're going to give you a nice positive reframe on it and show you how to work with the energies. But yeah, Ophie, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd say the inspection has arrived. It's inspection week, and that's okay because the inspection might unearth some treasures as well. But look, this has been an unusual year in so many ways, but astrologically speaking, the three inner planets, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, are all retrograde throughout the first quarter of the year. That doesn't always happen in such a compressed way. So we had Mars retrograde in Cancer until February 23rd. Then we had a short respite, and then Venus, the planet of harmony and love, went retrograde in Aries March 1st, where it'll be retrograde till April 12th, backing into Pisces March 27th. And then this weekend, we've got Mercury, communication, technology, travel ruler, going retrograde until April 7th. So it's a whole lot. And it does feel in so many ways like the country and the world and life is in the same kind of time warp that a retrograde can make us feel.
You know what? It feels petty. It feels like this has been a petty start to the year in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like, the New York Times just released a list of words that the government, this free speech loving absolutionist government, doesn't even want to be used. Like,
It literally has the word women, black, activism,
racism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sexual identity, I think, was on there.
Discrimination. It's so suppressive and insane. It's just like, I mean, this dystopian reality of retrograde, turning back the clock to God knows when. I'm really hoping, I've got my eye on Neptune moving into Aries on March 30th for the first time since the 1800s. The last time it moved in early on was when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. So, it was also the start of the Civil War, but we are... people have been asking me a lot about that, and we'll save a lot of that for the end of March as we get closer to that date. But people are asking, like, oh my God, the Civil War, I keep reading about that. Well, in a lot of ways, we're in a civil war. We're in an energetic civil war, a technological civil war. It's, people against people right now.
Well, the Civil War was happening when Neptune was exactly where it is now, sort of moving at the end of Pisces. It started and lingered into when Neptune was in Aries. And it's like no bayonets required, just bots. The pettiness, and when I say petty actions with absolutely the opposite of petty results, seismic results, devastating results. The pettiness of, oh, why aren't you wearing a suit, President Zelensky? Why are you, to the pettiness of firing people just with a bunch of, teenage trolls. Like it's
and outside
personal.
of the White House, one of the things that's really exemplified on a pop culture playing field high retrograde season and the pettiness is this uproar over Meghan Markle's new show with Love Meghan, which
Right.
I admit, after reading so many blogs and cackling a little bit about it in a petty way, I was like, let me just watch a couple episodes of this. So it's so confusing right now, just like everything else. On the one hand, you're like, what planet is this person living on with all this trad whiffery going on? Um,
Right.
but on the other hand, I mean, it's Venus is like the home and enjoyment and hosting and entertaining. And here she is coming out with this show about how she goes over the top and makes like bath salts and preserves for her friends when they come and visit her for an afternoon and picks the blackberries herself, as if any of us can relate to that. Um, but then she also revealed that she was a Girl Scout from a really young age to an older, probably teenage year, and her mother was her troop leader. And I totally got the
As
adorable
our
nerdiness
mother
of
was
it.
our troop leader.
Yeah, that one I could totally relate to. I was like, "Oh, like Girl Scout crafting, like we learned so much as Girl Scouts." I think, Venus rules women and Aries is this sort of self-determination. So I was like, all right, she knows how to do all these things because she was a Girl Scout. That gives me some different context because, Girl Scouts don't play. We had to build fires and camp and tents and do all these things. So, but and it's also funny because she's launching this brand and has changed the name and doesn't even have the
What's it called now?
products.
Ever
It's
After or
called
something like
As
that? Oh,
Ever. It was
As
called
Ever, that's right.
supposed to be American Riviera Orchard. Now it's As Ever. It's supposed to have all these jams and teas, and her Netflix show dropped, but the products aren't ready to be on sale. They're still coming
What a
soon.
Venus retrograde nightmare.
Yeah, so I'm thinking like that is such a retrograde example of like we can't even like, get this Martha Stewart throwback kind of thing. The timing of it is all wrong and just
And
like
we have to note that both she and Martha are Leos, so it's just kind
Leo,
of
which is the opposite sign of Aquarius as we move into the age of Aquarius with Pluto and Aquarius, all things Leo are a little bit not they're just not on trend right now, like being
yeah. If she had done it in a little bit more of a campfire circle way instead of, "I've invited my fancy friend Mindy Kaling over," it probably would have landed differently. Like, she should have just, brought a group to do beekeeping or pick the blackberries with her. I don't know. Maybe, this is a lesson to all of us, though, with Venus retrograde in Aries, the sign of the self, the sign of self identity, to like go easy with your any changes you make with your personal branding between now and April 12th, and Mercury turning retrograde in Aries from Saturday until I mean, it's retrograde in Aries and Pisces, just like Venus, but it'll be retrograde in Aries from March 15th to 29th. Venus retrograde in Aries, March 1st to 27th. Like, how you present yourself, how you represent could have its own, could have dire consequences if you, make the wrong move, if you do things in a way that are maybe counter to, if you fail to read the room, and we all may struggle to read the room this month, you could get
well, let's talk
dragged
about also
hard.
that Venus rules shopping and all things, that I mean, think about how many places are getting boycotted this month
Oh,
as
that's so
well.
true.
So during Venus retrograde, from Target to Whole
The
Foods to
Amazon
Amazon.
blackout. Hmm.
Yeah, so it's Aries is also anger. So and Venus is fairness and justice. So speaking up against something that feels unjust is definitely what's going on
Don't say
right now.
justice. Don't say justice. It's on the
Oh
New
yeah,
York
is that on
Times.
the
It's on
list?
it's on the federal watchword list. Oh my God. Why don't we
Are
just
you kidding? Wow. I
no,
mean,
I'm not.
I don't even know what to say. This is just like
Well, it's
basic
so
civil
interesting with
rights.
Jupiter. So, one thing that's been happening, and we're in a long cycle of it since last May 25th of 2024 until this June 9th, is that Jupiter, the planet that, along with Mercury, rules the media, has been in one of its least favorite positions. It's been in Gemini, double talking Gemini. Um, that's it's in detriment there. That's what it's called because it's in the sign opposite its home base of Sagittarius. So, I mean, that's been favorable for Teflon Don. I mean, it was like, oh boy, he's going to win, isn't he? He's got Jupiter on his side. Um,
Mm-mm-mm.
but just the whole, just the utter hypocrisies that we're seeing. Like, don't be woke, but now we're being, it's pulling away our freedom. But here, anti-wokeism, as I hear they're calling it, is
Oh my God.
now becoming just as awful and rigid and suppressive as it ever was, but it's getting more exposed.
And that is the Civil War. I mean, people
Right?
are organizing against each other. It's the people, and
Civil
it's
war of
also a civil war
words.
against corporations and governments as well, like in a 2025 kind of ways. So,
Totally.
it's yeah, it's a time. Oh, what a time to be alive, I would say. So,
I
so
just
we're
want to go
navigating it.
to, yeah, I wish I could just go hide out at Meghan Markle's guest cottage right now. That's what I
Well, there,
wish.
like I had to think
I'm
about
sorry,
it.
Meghan, Duchess of
Yeah,
Sussex.
she's not Meghan Markle
Don't call her
anymore.
Meg.
She's
Yes, she pointed that out on the
Meghan
show.
Meghan Sussex, although apparently that's not even the right way to say it. As someone from the royal family corrected, it's Meghan Mountbatten Windsor, Duchess of Sussex. So she's not even getting her own name right. I mean, she can't do anything right now. Like
Well,
the poor
the
woman.
whole royal, like, so Pluto, our transformer, our long playing planetary arc of Pluto for the next 19 years in Power to the People Aquarius, is really just making anything in the opposite energy, which is Leo. That doesn't mean all Leos are going to have it bad, but things like that gilded, royal, golden escalator, golden toilet, royal family, pomp and circumstance. It's just off key. It's not hitting the same note. I think, the Kardashians who were treated like royalty here are all kind of
It's
potential.
passe right now. It
Yeah,
just feels like
the flaunting of extreme wealth is, yeah.
I'm calling it the golden calf era because there are people that are
Mm.
worshiping the gold of Leo, but they're really missing the memo of Pluto and Aquarius. And I always say, like, Pluto keeps receipts when it comes in. So those who
Mm.
display the most shadowy sides of Leo, which is selfishness and, like you said, over gilding and flaunting of wealth as others struggle. I mean, Aquarius is definitely the opposite of that. But yeah, like I mean, when I look at with Love Megan, it's like her hair is always done, and she's changing into different designer outfits in her, perfect Nancy Meyer's kitchen, and it's just yeah, it's like a couple years ago, we would have all maybe wanted that. It would have been like the Instagram backdrop that you tried to create on a budget. And now it just seems like, okay, that's cool. Enjoy a little bit of that, but make it relatable to the peoples. I mean, not to pile on Megan, but she's just kind of an example of what Venus retrograde wants us to have a little bit of, but not that much of. Like, you want to make some jam, you want to self-soothe by doing some uh
Let's back up to Wednesday a little bit. The day we call the Day of Challenges. It happens once a year. There's no way around it. When the sun, which rules our ego, our personality, how we like to shine in the world, meets up at the same degree as taskmaster Saturn in the skies. And this is kind of like doing um, an audit. Once again, another audit to your personal brand in some ways, since the sun does reveal the way you represent yourself in the public and how you shine. And then Saturn's like, well, hold on. Can you walk that talk? Now, this year, and this is as has happened the last 2 years, they're meeting up in Pisces. It won't happen again after this for like another 3 decades. So we have a Sun Saturn conjunction in one of the weirdest places imaginable because both the Sun and Saturn are very results focused. Show me what you got. Pisces is all about the dreamy, undefinable, elusive, subconscious. So, in some ways, this is a little bit of an internal audit, if you will, of your own psyche. There's been a lot of people talking about codependence lately, and I know we just lost Gemini Melody Beattie, the author of Codependent No More, this last week. RIP Melody, you changed so many lives, including my own, by actually introducing that word. We mentioned last week also Terry Cole, who's one of our dear friends. Her high functioning codependence is a term that she coined for the way that many of us auto accommodate, overachieve, hyper achieve because we feel that no one will be there for us, or it's not safe to let go and trust, or that we need to be needed. So, um, the whole realm of codependence is so in the spotlight this year with the North Node in Pisces from January 11th of this year until the summer of 2026. But now this day of challenges is really hitting the brakes and offering us an opportunity, I think, to go, where am I doing the most where I really don't need to? And this, again, dear Meghan Markle, maybe
Right.
you don't have to, you know, make your friends sachets and bath bombs. They'll still come play with you?
It's a whole lot. It's like, maybe I don't have to make focaccia, and there was one Substack that described it as a sleepover that never ends, and while everybody seems to be enjoying their food prep and everything else, it's just kind of a lot. It's like, "Come play in my kitchen,"
Since you
"Let's play house."
recontextualized it though as a Girl Scout thing, I'm like, what do I need to do to be a guest? Because that sounds actually fun to my
I mean,
crafty
yeah, I
ass.
mean, that one, like, literally, when she dropped that one while hiking on a mountain with some Argentinian royal, I was like, "Oh, Megan is just like us." Now, all of a sudden, I see, like, the girl from my hometown, even though she's not from our hometown. It was like it just, like it just was like a record scratch, like, "Ooh, I'm now seeing her differently." So, I mean, a little Girl Scout would go a long way right now, not just because it's Girl Scout cookie season. I've seen them out with
Are they it's Girl Scout cookie
tabling
time.
out and about, yeah, and, speaking of a Mercury retrograde, like, there's, like, some, like, nutty conspiracy theory about how the cookies contain some kinda, like, fertilizer or chemicals. I mean, if can we just
Oh my
stop with the
god.
retrograde disinformation? No,
We can't.
it's
Well, the sun
going to get
and
worse.
the day of challenges is really gonna also perhaps bring receipts for some of those backdoor behind the scenes things that are happening. I mean, Pisces, one of the shadows of Pisces is how shadowy it is. It's this esoteric, the realm of illusions. So, all the ways and last week I did call it. I said those tariffs are not going to last much longer than Tuesday. And of course, that happened. Trump walked those back. So, I think there could be some, I mean, it already seems like there's a coup going on right
I
now
mean,
with
let's look at it.
Doge,
Mars was retrograde in Cancer, and I think during that time, the Cancer himself, Elon Musk, thought he could just have a free for all.
And the US is a Cancer too, born
Oh, that's
July
so true.
4th. So there was this retrograde attack happening, like, we're
It's a self-attack. That's
from
what I
January
yeah.
6th, isn't it so interesting that January 6th is when Mars turned retrograde in Cancer till February 23rd, yeah.
And now Mercury, which is Donald Trump's ruling planet, as well as many of the other Geminis and Virgos. His press secretary Carolyn Leavitt is a Virgo. Marco Rubio is a Gemini. I wonder what's going to happen with Blake Lively too, who's been in the headlines. Virgo with the Virgo total lunar eclipse. Will
Yeah,
it
let's
end
talk
with
about
us
that.
end? Will
Oh my
this
god, I
drama
hope
end? And we've
so.
got Pluto in Aquarius with Aquarius Justin Baldoni, Virgo South Node eclipse with Blake Lively. Pluto is a ruler of Scorpio. That's Ryan Reynolds' signs. I mean, they are in an astrological death match there. It's
They
just something
really are.
else.
Let's get into this Virgo eclipse and what it means to be an eclipse season. And just to tie a bow on the, day of challenges, it's really a day to, on a personal level, to look at where maybe you're being not quite compassionate, or where are you stuffing down feelings? Where are you refusing to look at things? Where are you not do it is a shadow work day. It's a shadow work week,
Mm.
but um
And where are you being a little too hard on yourself? I feel like the
yeah.
Sun-Saturn conjunction is kind of a sobering day. It's like a time it takes the varnish off of everything and shows us things in a very harsh light, but it only lasts for a day, so it passes. So you have to be careful not to give into too much doubt, negativity, pessimism, and watch your own see where you're like being an overachiever, being too hard on yourself. Like, could we all use a little bit of an inner Girl Scout for ourselves during this
Sun
time?
Saturn
I'm gonna say, yeah,
conjunction is like the troop leader coming
it's
in and
very
being,
wholesome.
now
It's like
girls, stop giggling. We have to wake up early to, you
chop
know,
wood and
and
build a
forage.
fire.
Though on the flip side of things, the Sun Saturn conjunction can show where you've been a little too drifty and lost, where that Pisces energy where you've maybe spiraled out into some conspiracy theory. I mean, it feels like the world is ending and everything's out of control and oh my god, and it's like actually an opportunity, an invitation to get your hands back on the wheel, find some emotional regulation after being so dysregulated, as many of us have been by the Doge attack, feeling like a whole fleet of white supremacists have taken over the government and are now allying with dictators. There's a lot of reasons to go into that Pisces paranoia, overwhelm, crisis mode. And I think that this week we're also potentially going to see some leaders stepping forward, maybe some elected ones, maybe not, who actually have a little more of a plan, and that's very Sun Saturn. It also leads us to the Virgo total lunar eclipse, full
Yeah,
moon on
which
Friday.
is
Sensible Virgo, so ready for
yes.
that.
Virgo is sensible, it's about a plan, it is the sign of health and wellness. And, before we go into that, we have a special invitation for you, actually. We have something from one of our dearest friends, Everett Considine, who is an internal family systems expert. Some of you guys are big followers of IFS, and he has combined his IFS expertise with helping people transform their relationship to food and eating and their bodies. So, with all of these retrogrades and just all the stuff that's going on, I mean, I don't know about you, but there's definitely been some emotional eating and,
Oh, for
just
sure for me.
soothing going on. And, that's normal. But having an adversarial relationship with your food or your body or that kind of thing is very normal and common among people who are empathic, highly sensitive people and that kind of thing. So Everett has a free 3-part masterclass this week called The Secret to Peaceful Eating that combines IFS with an exploration of your relationship to food and how you can really create a healthy, happy, enjoyable relationship with your body and food. And it's just so perfectly on time with Venus retrograde in Aries, which is about enjoying the pleasures of Venus, but in a way that is healthy for you,
And
putting
connected to
yourself first.
yourself, connected
Connect
to your
exactly.
why. Why am I what part of me is showing up? Yeah,
Exactly. So the parts work of internal family systems is, yeah, there are different parts. There's a chorus of parts within you, which is so aligned with astrology
it
because
is.
the planets in your chart are like, as we say, the actors in the movie of your life, or or parts, selves, parts of yourself. So we are so excited that he's doing the program again and that we can share his free 3-part masterclass with you, the series. So the first video is already available today, Monday. There'll be another one Wednesday, and there'll be a live event at the end of the week. And you get those all for free. There are recordings as well, but it's recommended you sign up live. And we will share the link in the show notes. You can go and sign up and get to know one of our favorite, most compassionate, loving people who always makes us feel like everything's going to be okay. We always have a laugh, but I mean, his commitment and depth and love are just so powerful that I feel like he's an antidote to Venus retrograde in Aries, and it's a perfect exploration as we move into the total lunar eclipse, shining its spotlight on our health and well-being and anxieties. The eclipse really illuminates things that have been hiding in the shadows. And in Virgo, it's like, what are those fears and anxieties that might be driving us to have unhealthy relationships with our
And it's
bodies
so
and
true because
food?
Virgo also relates to Virgo rules our digestion and it
Yeah.
rules our wellness and our self-care. So understanding how all the parts of us come together to even direct some of those Virgo-y compulsions and how we process anxiety and how we process the things that make us nervous. Like when you can break it down into parts using internal family systems, but really focusing on how food can sometimes be a conduit to, and even a messenger, and like developing a really healthy relationship with eating and nourishing ourselves. This is not a diet. We're not into diet culture. It's not about losing weight. It's about forming a loving connection to food so you feel healthy and whole and like you're actually in the driver's seat making those decisions. And as a Cancer South node, that is something that's a lifelong thing. Everett's been an amazing IFS therapist for me for many phases of life. I love his gentle wisdom. And yeah, so we'll drop that link is
Yeah.
in the
Go
show notes for
experience
you.
it yourself too, in sync with what's
I
happening in
can't
the
wait to see the
stars.
first video today.
Yeah. So and on that note, let's talk about what actually is a lunar eclipse. So a lunar eclipse happens when at a full moon only. Solar eclipses happen at new moons. We've got one of those on March 29th. They always come in pairs. There's not a lunar eclipse without a solar eclipse either 2 weeks before or 2 weeks after each other. So we've got this lunar eclipse, total lunar eclipse, meaning the sun and the moon are always opposite each other at every full moon. But during an eclipse, the moon enters the Earth's shadow. So the Earth throws its shadows on the moon and they look that rusty brown. And that's why it's called a blood moon, because the moon appears to turn orange and red and brown at a blood moon, and we see our own shadows illuminated. So, the ancients thought that eclipses, especially lunar eclipses, made people act very strange and out of character.
And they
And
might. They might this
they
week.
might
Friday.
symbolically and spiritually, the total lunar eclipse is like our shadows are illuminated to us and to others. So people may see parts of us, or we may see parts of ourselves, perfect for parts work, that we don't
Mhm.
normally that are sometimes hidden from us and from others. So it can be an extremely illuminating time, but also shocking. And eclipses are also moments of transition and change. Full moons can mark endings or manifestations or turning points. So a lunar eclipse can be that on steroids.
Again.
Like if you've been sitting on the fence and procrastinating and just saying you're going to do something and not doing it, I've got a long list of those things that are about 90% done. I've been complaining about them for a week to
Mhm.
Tali or longer.
Yes,
Well,
please, Eclipse, help her finish this shit.
Virgo will help you make a plan and force you to finish it. It's like you will get so sick of yourself that you'll just want to get it done. Well, at least I'm hoping. But yes, it's sometimes an
Or
eclipse will
sick of
force
your
your hand.
twin sister complaining about them. Yes.
Whatever it takes because I want to get those things done too. So, but it's been hard to get stuff done this year. There's been so much to process, and don't get me wrong, the shadows. I'm actually hoping though that like all the things that are so not okay that have been going on in the government, that even the complicit elected officials who still have their heads in the sand, or wherever they have them,
Mhm.
will be unable to not speak, because Virgo is verbal communication as well, written and verbal communication. And with a total lunar eclipse, something might just slip out, especially in Mercury
Well,
retrograde. There's going
also
to be some
public
leaks.
health. I think RFK is going to get called to the carpet. Like
Oh, for sure.
Virgo does rule insurance. I think um all those Doge cuts, because Virgo is a sign of service and people who are service workers,
Yeah, so true.
veterans who've given their service, public servants, anyone who's working for the government who has been, and there's a mile long list. I actually heard from a friend whose husband was doged out, that they're calling him to try to get him to come back.
I
And I
feel like
think that's
Mercury
happening.
retrograde and the eclipse is going to reinstate a whole lot of people. I
Please
sure hope so.
send Elon. I mean, you know, it is it a coincidence that one of the the rockets blew up? It's like, could that be a metaphor for time's up on Elon Musk? May his agenda blow up, just like that. I mean, that's so
I
wrong
mean,
to say.
speaking of Leos, Obama is the person who gave government funding to Starlink for the first time ever. So talk about unappreciative.
Wow.
Leo Barack
Well,
Obama.
it's not even about appreciation for him. He is trying to bring money, he's only wealthy because of government contracts, as it turns out. And so he's just trying to wipe out any competition for himself and funnel the money back to him and make sure nothing gets cut for him. So he has these energy contracts for Tesla. So it's really insidious. I hope eclipse season reveals it. So we start with a Virgo eclipse on Friday. The totality of it means the entire full moon will be shadowed by the earth. So there'll be a moment where the entire moon is like reddish, blood color, whatever. But that opens up what's called an eclipse corridor. 2 weeks of Twilight Zone, Black Mirror style events happening. The second eclipse is, so this is the first eclipse we've had in Virgo since 2016, by the way. So if you check back to 2014, 2015, 2016, there were Pisces Virgo eclipses. Then there might be some echoes of those events happening, maybe. But the
Nothing like
second,
that happened in 2016.
I
No.
don't know. Right,
Yeah.
right, right. Oh God,
Hmm.
you're right. Oh my God, so true. Um, 20, so the corridor opens. We're in this liminal, bizarre space of like everything feels like a little sci-fi, as if it doesn't already. But there could be some massive changes. Like it's kind of this opportunity window to act fast but thoughtfully. And then we end the eclipse quarter on March 29th, the same day Mercury retrogrades back into Pisces from Aries. That one is in Aries. That's the last Aries eclipse we have in a series that began a couple years ago. So spring of 2023, spring 2024, and this March 29th, we had solar eclipses in Aries. Last year, there was the big one on April 8th that everyone in the United States, in the middle of the country, went outside to see the fascinating spectacle of that total solar eclipse. Um, but this one is a very the farewell to that series, and hopefully it'll put an end to some of the wars and the Aries, fighting that's been going on over the last couple years. But I don't know, it
Can we
might,
get some
but a
ceasefires? I mean,
shocking ending too, because we have these new alliances, which we actually predicted in our 2024 horoscope book that there would be some bizarre new global alliances starting to form. And here we go. It's
and
like,
the last time that was because of Jupiter being in Gemini, when it was in Gemini was when the US and the Soviet Union had to align to defeat the Nazis in World War II. So here's Jupiter in Gemini again. Um, and
creating alliance, like all the European countries are now allying. It's like, are they gonna become our enemies now? Like, this is insane. I mean, but
yeah,
I do think Mercury retrograde and the eclipses are well timed because we need to pull the emergency brake. We need a disruption because things are going off the freaking rails in so many ways. And
maybe this will be the divine pendulum starting to swing the other way, or starting to point at the truth here. Like, stop swinging so much and be
well,
like,
because
where will it
Trump is
land?
losing his approvals because people are losing their jobs. Egg prices are going up. I heard he actually wrote something that people should not, stop talking about the eggs. No, you started talking about the eggs, mofo. So we're not
We
going
got
to
a lot of
stop.
eggs to talk about, from reproductive rights to the supermarket shelves. And you can strike the word women from the
Oh,
English language, but,
the
you
worst
know,
thing that happened this week was in Texas. They're making a motion to actually make it a felony to be transgender and not report your birth sex at a job, which is just like, what is their deal? Like, what is your deal, MAGA? Like, what the F is your deal?
and then there's in Missouri where I mean, Venus being associated with women and being retrograde in Aries in Missouri, they're proposing 100% tax cut for money if money is given to a pro-life
Oh
uh,
my God.
pregnancy center, the kind that locks you in a room and shows you a terrible movie about abortions and that. It's just, yeah, retrograde planet. I mean, I am here for the positive effects of the retrograde, the corrective effects. Maybe Mercury is the retrograde we've been waiting for. Mars retrograde sucks. Mars is known as a
It all,
malefic
yeah.
planet, Mars and Saturn. And I didn't really like to buy into that, but after weathering the Mars retrograde period that we did, that was the beginning,
Weathering is a
the
word.
nearly the first 2 months of 2025, I was like, all right, you know what?
Started with Luigi to the LA fires to the inauguration to Doge. It has been, well, if you want a positive spin on Venus retrograde and a little bit more of a personal one, just listen to last week's podcast because I really did go through how Venus changes from an evening star to a morning star. So there's more of that in last week's podcast from March 3rd to 9th. You know, we want to leave you guys with a little bit of hope, though, and a little bit of action. So we've talked about the day of challenges on Wednesday, eclipse season starting this Friday, March 14th until March 29th, and then Mercury going into retrograde. Also, alongside Venus, are both going back through Aries until March 29th for Mercury, March 27th for Venus, and then both of them go back through Pisces. which until April 7th for Mercury, and then Venus turns direct April 12th. We're in it, you guys. We're in it. There's no choice. So if you want to really work with this energy, because everything happens according to divine timing, we are in a cycle where what we're being asked to do is slow down, stop, take stock, audit, internal audits, as well as really looking at what's worth fighting for, as well as our fighting strategy. Not bad to fight. And that's something that this Venus and Mercury and Aries is showing, but doing it strategically, not letting our emotions dysregulate to the point where we're frozen. Ooh, this is a chance to like develop some ways to regulate and get ourselves to center when we get thrown off. How do we get back faster?
I mean, if you think about it, what is a civil war but a whole that is divided against itself? Something that was once whole being divided. So, you may be in a
Very
civil war
Jupiter
with
and
your
Gemini.
you may be in a civil war with your body, or um you may be in a civil war in your neighborhood, or with a big box store, or someone that was an ally before, or so you thought, now becomes an enemy, and it's being fought on home turf. So this is what Q1 of 2025 is, flashing us like, hey, it doesn't have to be this way, but people are truly living in two different realities, much like when we had the Confederacy in the South and then the North, and it feels like a 2025 version of that. So I hope we may need to look back through history of that time for sure, just to see what did they do to how did we stop it? How did we also get the Emancipation Proclamation signed and everything else?
Well, I
So
saw Hamilton in Seattle. I'm so late to the party. I like just turned into a workaholic every time I was in New York, and it finally came to Seattle, and I'm like, my God, this is so timely. We need an Alexander Hamilton figure to emerge, like
hmm,
who's born on 1/11, by the way, which I think is so
interesting.
January 11th. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. We're recording on Sunday, and I'm going to see her speak tonight here in Seattle. And she has a great new book, Dream Count. I'm already reading it, and she's a Virgo, and I'm really loving. I'm on the first chapter, and the way she writes and the way the characters unspool. It's like they have this real self-recognition of their dualities and their foibles, and how they're like doing these things on the surface, but inside they're like tormented. Like the first character, the first set chapter, she's just like in this totally codependent relationship with a narcissist. And if you want
Sounds
a
very Venus
fiction version, yeah,
retrograde in Aries. Yeah.
if you want some like good fiction to get you through, I highly recommend reading Dream Count, or list. I'm listening to it because she narrates it in her really rich, beautiful, deep, sonorous voice. So
Sounds like probably a more attainable way of soothing ourselves than beekeeping and making our own honey into cake for our makeup artists. But, more
yeah,
power,
I'm
more
no, I'm
power.
gonna watch with love, Megan, because I want to see all this. My inner.
It's fairly harmless, just like being part of the Girl Scouts. So
Hmm.
actually,
And
that was
again, peaceful eating, if that's calling to you, go to the link below and watch enjoy the 3 free masterclass videos this Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We will be back again next week with more podcast Astro Twins radio for you, and take care of yourselves. We'll see you next week.
bye.
As always, thanks for listening. You can discover more of your star power at astrocell.com and be sure to follow us on social at AstroTwins. Join us next time for more cosmic fun.